Mission San Luis Rey de Francia, found 1798. King of the missions! Golden barrel cactus. Yep. This is the original baptism where they used to baptize the Indians. What's your name?
What are your names?
I'm Taylor.
All right. Well, come this way. Where the Native Americans bathed, did their laundry, and there's ovens where they baked bricks. And there's remnants of the ovens, and there's gargoyles, which are kind of statues down there as well.
This is an actual grinding stone right here. Can we catch him?
No.
He's resting in the sun. Leave
By
him
what
alone.
bush?
By the crown of thorns. Red spine cactus. This is a red spine cactus. Very, very sharp and spiky.
Palm. Look at the elephant foot palm. Why do you think it's called that, Tanaya?
It kind of looks like an elephant.
What part?
Like the bottom of it. This basket was used for grains like acorns and wheat, and this type of plant was also used for headaches and to cure headaches and make you feel better. These baskets were woven by this Disney Imagineer made this model.
Okay. Would you like to go do a project?
Yeah.
More dramatic. The Disney Imagineers carved a skull and crossbones into the wall.
A lot of trouble. So we went to a museum that was in town and said, listen, I gotta get from Monterey, you gotta do something about this. They did make a great brandy, and this is what the sailors would come up with their barrels and get brandy. And when you're in the museum itself, you're actually gonna see one of the copper kettles that they actually used to make the brandy in. And of course, me and a bunch of others have looked high and low to see if we can find a hidden bottle in a wall, but we haven't found one yet, but we're still looking. So we're gonna go with the famous pepper tree.
Famous pepper tree.
Okay, this is our famous pepper tree. that was started from sea from a Peruvian sailor in 1830. Now you'll notice that they have these big bars holding it up, and the reason for that is pepper trees do not last this long. They only last about 90 years before they grow out so far and split their trunks, and that's about the end of it. So we have these up there to hold it and keep it supported up so it'll stay alive. We know that it's the first pepper tree in California, and it's possible that it's the oldest in the world, because if you don't take care of it, it only lasts about 90 years. The building that you see, the round building right there, is the cistern that was fed by the San Luis Rey River. What we like to say is that we had running water here, we just didn't have spigots. Now, one of the other things too is that this is where they had their parties and their fiestas and whatnot, and they used to have a couple of games. And one of them that they played was like a field hockey with a ball and a stick and chase around. Well, one of the other things that they had was bullfights. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is real personal to me. I've seen a bullfight, and I really didn't care for it when they stabbed the bull. That's just a personal thing. Well, here it was different. The bull got to go home at the end of the day, because what they would do is they'd run it behind the bull and spin the bull's tail to show that they were brave and tough and could face off the bull. And I've often wondered what the bull thought about that, because after a while, I'm sure it kind of aggravated him, and that would have definitely added to the sport. This tree would have had at one time some red berries on it, and they would have mashed the berries up to make it somewhat like a neosporin of its day. And they also made an infusion for headaches and cramps and whatnot. Obviously, we don't have those berries anymore. Now, one of the other things I'll mention to you too is the fact that once the friars left, the mission became abandoned for about 50 years. And if you've ever heard the term midnight auto supply, well, that's where you steal car parts on somebody else's car in the middle of the night to fix your car. Well, this became the Home Depot midnight auto supply. They stole everything that wasn't bolted down. The natives did their best to try to keep the mission itself intact, but they stole the windows, they stole the tiles on the roofs, they stole a lot of things. And one of the things they also stole was a wooden clock tower that was here at one time. And we've never had any real pictures of it or recording. There was one person, there was a British sailor that wrote about it, and we found the footings, but we don't even know what it looks like because the records have been lost. And they would have had columns that go all the way across like this, and arches all the way down. We had originally 32 arches going across the front. We only have about 12 now. Because one of the problems... built in the crucifix form. There were only two built that way, ours and the one in San Juan Capistrano. But the one in San Juan Capistrano had an earthquake where part of it collapsed during the baptismal, and they said, well, we're not going to do that now. Well, being the 18th mission, they discovered all kinds of different ways of building a little bit stronger. We actually start off at about 9-foot footings and go up to about 6 foot. And the roof is actually, the mission itself is dictated by the tallest trees that we could actually find in Mount Palomar. Now, you've all seen a picture within a picture. I'm sure some people have seen it right away, some people don't. Sometimes it takes a little while. So the same thing happens here in the mission, because the outside wall is straight, but the inside wall comes up at a slight angle this way. Now, it took me about 4 or 5 times to stare at it before I finally saw it. So if you see it the first time, don't tell me. But yeah, it's like a picture in a picture. Once you see it, you go, oh yeah, okay, now I see it. But it's just one of those things, if you don't see it the first time, don't worry about it. As I said, it took me like 4 times. Now, those of you who are familiar with the carnival situation, or carnivals, know that they had something called Hey Rube. Hey Rube was where if something happened on the midway that was bad, they'd yell, Hey Rube, everybody drop what they were doing and come around. This is a 200-year-old Hey Rube or 911 type bell. If you heard this, and it wasn't time to go to work, it wasn't time to go to prayer or anything like that, you came a-running because you knew something was bad. Now, one of the fun things that I get to do every Saturday is ring this bell. And I invite my guests to please, what I want you to do is ring the bell, because when you can tell your friends and relatives, what did you do on Saturday? I rang a 200-year-old bell. I mean, when are you going to get a chance to do that? So it's a lot. I don't know why I like it.
Taylor, go to it.
Ring the bell. Yeah, that's gotta be it. That's gotta be it. Yeah, because you ever notice the girls were playing.
This was Walt Disney's. No, this was actually his set design that he left behind where they would place the cameras and everything else for the black and white Zorro. Because it was filmed here.
Now that you guys are all in the know, you know about the rope belt and whatnot, and you also know about this. Because this will make you in the know. It is the water pattern. So
Yeah, and do you know which mission this was?
The 18th.
Perfect. So I like this mission. I grew up here, so my grandmother did a lot for the fiestas, and she would plan and whatnot. So this was my mission, which, have you ever been to San Capistrano?
I love that.
But it's so small, right? It's tiny. So this is, do you know what the nickname of this is?
The king.
The king of the missions.
Yeah.
Because he's so big. So like I said, when you guys walked in, what's unique about the mission is it's in the shape of a cruciform, which is like a cross, right? And now what's interesting is, whenever you think about Catholic, you think gold and opulence, right? And this is very mid. It's kind of basic. One is because the Franciscans are very
Simple.
simple. They're
Yeah.
kind of like the hippies.
Yeah.
You know,
Very simple life.
vegetarian,
Yeah.
and not a lot of opulence. But the other thing is they didn't have a lot of material when they built the mission in 1798. So, and the other thing was the language barrier. So, like if I want to pop off a quick text to somebody, I don't have to type it out. I can use what? A phone, but there's pictures that are called emojis.
Yeah.
So I can use emojis to communicate. So like for one thing, trying to get people to understand over here, what does marble look like? How would I describe that? Well, one thing I could do is I could show them by painting that maybe this is like marble, right? And you notice the arches. See how it kind of looks like marble? So another thing they would do is go like, well, we want some tapestry, but they don't have a lot of materials out here to make like fabric, right? So they would paint. Do you see up at the top? See how there's like
Yeah.
so those are meant to look like tassels.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mouse here.
That's really smart.
Yeah,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah. Very
A lot of the art you see came from Mexico. The apple of that. Oh, so that one there was St. Francis. So that's what the Franciscans, that's who they modeled their life after. Very basic, they just wore basic cloth, basic belt. In fact, I think Father Ignatius was outside earlier. Yeah, but are these paintings? Okay, so obviously that's Jesus, right? Do you know who that is? Okay, so, oh, that's where I was going. So when I was little, my grandmother would drop me off to go do like business stuff for the fiesta. So me and my cousins, I'm not saying this is okay, don't break the rules, but my cousins and I would play in the mission before it became like this historic, site again. So I always thought that was like teenage Jesus. Because he looked shorter, right? But actually, that's who the mission is named after. That's King Louis IX of France. And he was kind of like the, you know what Patreon is, right? Or like subscribers, right? So he was kind of like the patron of the Franciscans. But what's really cool about him is he was a really young king. And you would think like all the castles and the fortune would go to his head, and he'd be like, well, I want the new PlayStation game, and I want the bling, and I want the that. No, he was really chill in that if there were like poor people that were really, really destitute, he would actually invite them into his castle, and he even would wash their feet, which that's a deep dive if anybody reads the Gospels.
Yes.
Yes.
Somebody else did that too.
Yes.
The Lulu shops, not to dismiss that, but anyway. So the tree of life just represents growth, and that the spirit that you'll see a circle around the tree. That's the spirit that gives life to everything. Without the spirit, the tree would die. Whatever. So every mission has a tree of life represented in the mission. Can I give you a hint? It doesn't look like a tree, but think of flowing life. So where do you think, how is that represented? In here. On the walls, where on the walls? Perfect. Perfect. Like the kids don't get that yet, that's fast. Yeah, so the flowing, you'll see it all throughout inside the mission, represents the tree of life. Now that, way up there, you might be thinking, how can a little candle be seen in the dark? Because remember, this is like a rest stop between San Diego and San Capistrano, right? So travelers would need a place to stay, right? So that little light, I don't know if you've ever seen darkness, but I'll give you an example. So can you see that little crack right there? No matter how dark it gets, if there's a little piece of light, it'll get through the darkness, right? Deeper meaning for the adults, am I right? Okay, so watch this. Can you see that? Even though it's light in here, you can still see this light, right? So with travelers, there used to be, you see that hook right there? So they would lower that all the way down, put a candle in it so that any travelers from anywhere could see. This is called the cupola. Now, have you heard about the earthquake? The earthquake, was it 1811? So it destroyed San Capistrano. So when they started to build the mission again, they didn't want accidentally for there to be another earthquake and for the walls to collapse like in San Capistrano. I'm 50. I didn't know this until I started becoming a docent here. But it just tripped me out. So look at the window. Okay, let your peripheral vision relax. Okay. Just look there. Now, just keeping your eye right there. Do you notice the walls look like they're leaning? Yes. Isn't that trippy? That's because when they reconstructed the mission, like I said, there was an earthquake in San Capistrano. So the architect built the walls on the side. They're 10 feet wide this way. Obviously, all that weight can't, it's gonna topple over. So as the walls go up, they're actually 4 feet. So it goes from 10 feet to 4 feet. And when the mission was built, these tiles weren't here. So that's why that pulpit and the choir loft are there. So they would have, from other missions, like San Capistrano, come down and have singing competitions back in the day, instead of the internet. So pretty cool, huh? And then, so everybody thinks this is where they would have the funerals, right? Do you know where they would hold the funerals? So this is where they would hold the funerals. So there's no plastic here, and the priest would go up in here, because obviously you have a bunch of people, you could just stand and you could see it. So you have to go here, and then the family would go up there. Okay, you've been doing your research. When I came, I was about you guys' age when I was running around and shouldn't have been. I always thought these doors were built low. But how tall was Huna Sarah? Do you know? I didn't know that. She's 5'2". Everybody shorter. Yeah, really petite. Yeah, so that's why they're. Anyway, I could go on, but I hope you enjoy your time here at the mission.
Wow. That thing is huge. Look at the trunk on it. The oldest pepper tree in California was planted by Friar Antonio Perry in the middle of Mission Garden.
Sounded okay.
Garden. Mission Garden. The seeds were brought to San Luis Rey in 1830 by a
A is on.
sailor
Sound like a
from
Peru.
Peru.